Today we'll be dividing polynomials, and our content objective for today is that you'll be able to use long division, much like how we would with regular numbers, and be able to do synthetic division to divide polynomials. Okay, so we're going to divide much like we would long division with regular numbers. So the polynomial that's at the end, that's going to go outside of our division symbol. The first polynomial will go underneath our division symbol. And just like we would with regular numbers, we need to fill in what's missing in the polynomial. So if we look at the first one, we have 3x to the fourth minus 5x cubed, and we're missing that x squared in between. So we've got to plug in a 0x squared. That way we don't forget or we don't combine like terms in the wrong spots. And then 4x minus 6. Now we have to figure out the number that goes up here is what I'm going to multiply x squared by to get 3x to the fourth. And so in order to get 3x to the fourth, I'd have to multiply times 3x squared. Now I multiply this times the entire polynomial over here and put it underneath this polynomial here. So 3x squared times x squared, that gives us 3x to the fourth. And then 3x squared times negative 3x gives us negative 9x cubed. And then 3x squared times 5 gives us a positive 15x squared. Now remember, with long division we would multiply, and the next thing we would do is subtract. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to subtract this entire polynomial here. And remember, when we subtract polynomials, we have to change that to addition and change all the signs to the right. Now we combine like terms. So 3x to the fourth and negative 3x to the fourth is 0. Negative 5x cubed and positive 9x cubed is 4x cubed. And then 0x squared and negative 15x squared, we get negative 15x squared. And then we bring down the rest of it just like we would with our regular numbers. And then do it again. So I have to multiply x squared times positive 4x in order to get 4x cubed. So I multiply it out. I get 4x cubed minus 12x plus 20x. And then I change it to addition and change all the signs. So our 4x cubes will cancel. Negative 15x cubed and positive 12x squared will give me negative 3x squared. Positive 4x and negative 20 gives us negative 16x, and then we bring down the 6. And now we do it again. So in order to get negative 3x squared, I have to multiply x squared times negative 3. And then I multiply it out. Negative 3 times x squared gives me negative 3x squared. Negative 3 times negative 3x gives me positive 9x. Negative 3 times a positive 5 gives me negative 15. And then remember, we change the sign and add them together. So negative 3x squareds will cancel. Negative 16x and negative 9 gives me negative 25x. And then negative 6 and positive 15 gives me a positive 9. Now you should notice that there is nothing that I can multiply x squared by to get 25x unless I multiply it times a fraction. So this is what we call our remainder. I remember in elementary school we would be able to put an r there, or we can make it into a fraction. For polynomials, we want to change it into a fraction. So we end up with 3x squared plus 4x minus 3 plus this thing, negative 25x plus 9, all over what we were dividing by, which is this part right here. So we get x squared minus 3x plus 5. Now I know it does a lot of work, and we want to make sure that we show all of our steps, and there is a lot of room for error over here. So please be very, very careful when you're doing these problems. Let's try another one. So again, we're going to divide. So we take the x minus 2 and put that on the outside. And then we take x cubed plus 5x squared minus 7x plus 2. No need for zeros in this one because there are no missing terms. So now, in order to get x cubed, I have to multiply x times x squared. And then I multiply it out. So x squared times x gives us x cubed. And x squared times negative 2 gives us negative 2x squared. Remember, change the sign and add them together. And bring the rest of it down. So now to get 7x squared from x, I have to multiply that times positive 7x. So I get 7x squared, and 7x times negative 2 is negative 14x. Change the sign and combine them together. That's 0. 7x, negative 7x and positive 14x is 7x, and then bring down the 2. So to get 7x, I have to multiply x times a positive 7. And I multiply it out and get 7x minus 14. Change the sign and add them together. And I end up with 16. So I have x squared plus 7x plus 7 plus 16 over, remember the thing that we're dividing by, so x minus 2. Just like that. Okay, you pause the video and try this one yourself and see what you come up with. Okay, let's see if you're correct. So this goes on the outside. We get 2x to the 4th plus x cubed plus 0x squared plus x minus 1. So I need a 2x squared. Then I multiply it out, 2x to the 4th plus 4x cubed minus 2x squared. And then we change the sign and add them together. Negative 3x cubed plus 2x squared, and bring down the plus x minus 1. And then we need a negative 3, so I get negative 3x, we get negative 3x cubed minus 6x squared plus 3x, and then we change the sign and add them together. 2x squared and 6x squared is 8x squared minus 2x and then minus 1. And then I need to multiply times a positive 8, so 8x squared plus 16x minus 8, and we change the sign and add them together. So we get negative 18x plus 7. And this is x squared. This one is x. I have to stop there. So I end up with 2x to the third, not to the third, x squared minus 3x plus 8 plus negative 18x plus 7 all over x squared plus 2x minus 1. And hopefully that is what you got when you did this problem as well. Oh, I'm sorry, that looks horrible. Let's change that right there. It's x and then plus 8. Now let's move on to synthetic division. Now synthetic division is very quick, but it only works when the thing that you're dividing by or the polynomial at the end or on the outside of the division sign is a linear function. So it has to have just an x, and then either plus or minus some sort of number over here. It cannot be x squared. It cannot be x cubed. These will not work. So let's see how it works. So when we use synthetic division, what we do is we take the opposite sign of that polynomial right there, which is negative 3. And then much like we did with evaluating, we take all those numbers, 2, 1, negative 8, and 5, and write the coefficients down. Don't forget to put 0 if it's missing a coefficient. And then we do the same thing we did with synthetic substitution. So we bring down the 2, multiply and get negative 6. And then 1 minus 6 is negative 5. And then multiply again and get positive 18. Add that together and we get 7. Multiply that together, we get negative 21. And add that together and we get negative 16. Now the reason why it only works with this is because we end up with just a single number at the end, and that is actually our remainder. In between, these are all the coefficients of our answer. So we have 2, we have minus 5, plus 7, and then we have this thing plus negative 16 over our dividend, which is plus x plus 3. Our divisor, I'm sorry. Now what goes in the spaces between would be, we started with x cubed, so now after the 2 we're going to have a 2x squared, and then we're going to have just an x, and then nothing after the 7. So we start with one exponent or an exponent less than what we had before, and then we write it out from there. Okay, now we have a different type of question. This one asks us to factor completely. And if we're given that this is one of the factors, then we're going to have x plus 2 in our answer. To figure out what it looks like after that, we use our synthetic division. So negative 2, and then 3, 4, negative 28, negative 4, and negative 16. So I write it down, we get 3, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, and get negative 10. Negative 2 times negative 10 is positive 20, and that gives us negative 18. And then we multiply I'm sorry, negative 8. Let's erase that. Erase that 1. And then we get positive 16, and when we add that together, we end up with 0. So this is one of the factors because this is 0. And what we have left over is 3x squared minus 10x and then minus 8. And we can factor that using our x. We get negative 24 and negative 10, which gives us negative 12 and positive 2. And then we divide by the a and reduce. This one is negative 4. So our factors are x plus 2, and then we get x minus 4 and 3x plus 2. Just like that. Okay, you try this one out, and then I will give you the answer. So the answer for this one, after you complete all the work, you should get x minus 4 and x minus 3 and x plus 1. Double check your work and make sure you understand how this answer came about, and if not, make sure you ask me tomorrow when you come in for help.